you, everybody. I'm Thobile Mtshali, originally from KZN, but this class calls me Tobs, and I love it. So I'm going to talk to you about conversations. A conversation it's like a book. You can turn to any page you want. You can read as long as you want. Let people read on your book and flip through theirs as well. That one simple conversation could really change your life. So a conversation is the most natural, effective, and yet most complex mode of human connection. A main goal is an understanding between two parties, the ones that are involved. And for a productive conversation, people involved must be open-minded. No one wants to have a conversation with someone who's already formed an opinion and doesn't want to listen. We all want to be heard. It makes us feel important and valued. So I'm going to share with you a story of a young lady that she was actually sharing a conversation that changed her life. She was working in it's not a mental care, but you know those places for hire, like, you know, those old people. I don't know how to say it nicely, but you know, mature homes. So this young lady was working there. It was one of those long, boring days. So she decided to go and sit with this mean-looking 84-year-old gray lady. And when she sat there, they started to have a conversation. This lady just skipped through the small talk and started asking this young lady personal questions, such as, why did you choose to come and work in this company? Well, there's so many. Don't tell me about financial reasons, but why did you choose to work here? The second question was, why do you have the kind of friends you have? The young lady answered these questions with cautious, because now she didn't want to be viewed differently after these answers. So she answered the questions, but she got curious when the conversation went by. She got curious as to why these questions in particular. So she was brave enough to ask this lady, like, why are you asking me all these questions? And the lady just smiled and looked down and looked up to her again. And she finally said, you actually remind me of my daughter, a daughter I haven't spoke to in quite a long time. So to this young lady, this whole conversation started to make sense. I would say the conversation really changed both of their lives, because this older woman has been missing her daughter, and by the question she was asking, I'm just thinking she was trying to get something from her daughter. So she saw her daughter through this young lady and was connecting to her daughter through this young lady. And who knows, if they haven't had that conversation, I don't know, I just feel like at the time, this older woman really needed to talk to someone, and this young girl was just a perfect fit. And fortunately, also the young girl really enjoyed the conversation, and because after the woman explained that the young lady reminds you of her daughter, she started rambling about her life. She started talking about her life, and the young lady was like, okay, fine. I'm into this. I'm going to get up every morning. Like her life changed. I'm getting up every morning earlier just to have a conversation with that woman. She started remembering her things. She started paying attention to her. Like, both of their lives changed. I'm just thinking to myself, had they not had that conversation, what state would the older woman be? Maybe in a week's time, or maybe in a month. What thoughts would have come to her mind if she didn't speak to this young lady? Or if the young lady didn't even have time to speak to her, who knows? So I'm going to share with you a few stories of my life, a few conversations I've had that really changed my life. This was a very short one. So it was this year early. I was rushing to work when a good friend of mine was trying to have a conversation with me. Like, you know you're rushing to a taxi and you're already late. And she's just here and like, Thobile, wait, man, wait. There's this school I heard about, red and yellow, it's in Cape Town. I'm like, what about it, bro? What about it? Like, I'm on the lookout for a taxi. And she's like, no, they actually have nice courses there and we should apply, man. I'm like, what do we even apply to study there? It's in Cape Town, that's really far. And she's like, oh, because we're late, we can only apply for either copyright or marketing and advertising advanced diploma. I'm like, advanced diploma, okay, cool. And then we have to do marketing then, because it's something we're both familiar with. I hopped into a taxi, I got to work. But at work, I couldn't take away the conversation we had. I kept thinking about it the whole time. During break, I'll go to a random person and be like, do you know anything about copyright, ba? Have you heard anything about copyright? Because I already knew about marketing, I knew I wanted to go there, but I didn't want to miss out the things I don't know. So the conversation kept me, it was on my mind the whole time. And later in the day, I realized, no, this is hope for me. You know, things could really change. I thought to myself, that conversation was like 2 or 3 minutes, but it really got me thinking. And when I got back, I started applying. So fast forward, when I was coming here, when I arrived to Cape Town, I had a number of a guy called David. I hadn't met David. I just got the number from an ex-Max student. So I called David when I touched down airport. I called David. I'm like, oh, Thobile, I'm here. I'm sure you heard about me. He's like, yeah. Can we meet? I had my bag with me. Like, can we meet? He's like, yeah, I can give you directions to my office. And I went to his office. His office is like in a student accommodation. He actually owns a student accommodation. He was supposed to allocate me in one of his rooms. So when I got there, we sat down, we started talking, and I told him about my whole story, up to the money I had in my pocket the day. And he just showed me the board. He showed me his room allocation board. He told me, like, Thobile, these are the 3 rooms that are vacant, but they're not really vacant because the people have already paid, they're coming. These are the other rooms, but basically he told me it doesn't have space for me. And this was, I think it was after 3 towards 4. And I thought to myself, what were you even thinking? When I was just down on the thought, he quickly said to me, you know what? You remind me of myself. When I was younger, I was like, oh. To myself, I was like, oh, I don't even have time for these stories. Like, I'm in trouble here. Like, I remind you of yourself. Like, I asked him, what do you mean? And he told me, no, I'm just looking at you with a huge bag and a backpack across the country. You determined, you driven, you want to do this, fighting the odds. I'm like, yeah, man, what do I have to do? And he said to me, I actually know of a place that you can try out. And I got up and I was like, okay, now you're talking. Now you're talking, where is this place? I was like, no, it's fine, I can take you. So he took me to the place. When we got there, he got in first. I was like, okay, fine. He got in first. The guy started negotiating for me. He started to negotiate for me and got back to me telling me, they're taking me in. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay. We said our goodbyes. I took my bags, I got the key. As I was walking through the passage to my room, I was like, what the hell? What has that conversation in that office actually did for me? It was a few minutes. I was stressed out. I needed a solution. I had no solution. I had this one guy who knows Cape Town and has been there and is running a business, something that could help me, but I thought to myself, okay, had I not had that conversation with the guy, maybe he was just too busy, and when I called him from the airport and he was like, oh, I really can't do this today, can we meet tomorrow? He could have said that. He could have said, no, I'm very far, can we do this tomorrow morning? Can we postpone? But luckily he was there. And I thought to myself, had I not been present, had I not been transparent and honest with him through the conversation in his office, maybe he wouldn't have negotiated for me. Like, he didn't have to negotiate for me, but he did that. I think also with his comment that I reminded him of himself, I thought to myself, maybe the conversation with him really was also productive for him as well, but I didn't see at the time. So going back to my point of the importance of conversations and how conversation can really control your life, it just makes me think like every time, because if imagine if you didn't have that conversation with a person, do you even know who your partner would be right now? The job you're doing, surely it started off a conversation. Maybe you had someone speaking or you were involved in a conversation and you just thought, okay, this is the way to go. I'm just trying to explain the point that conversations are the biggest part of our lives. Biggest decisions we make are formed from certain conversations. And you can never know what you can get from a conversation. Having said that, I got to another point that a person can never forget how a conversation made them feel. Like they live with that for the rest of their lives. And that one note got me thinking and got me curious. I wanted to know. So I asked a friend of mine, who's an ex-colleague, to tell me about a conversation we once had that really had an impact in her life. So she picked a recent one we had about her mother's condition. I didn't want to ask her about the details, but her mother's condition it's a new condition. Her mother can't recognize her anymore. It was really sad for me to hear it because I'm very close with my mother and we talk about a lot of things. I just imagine if it was me, like seeing you there but you don't see me. Like it was a shock to me and it was really something hard to take in. I had to say something. So I spoke to her. I can't even remember what I said to her at the time because I was shocked and I was broken. You know, when you never experience something, you never know what to say about it. So she tells me from that conversation, she felt like she was the only person in the world. She tells me I pulled her out of a dark place. She tells me she was able to see out of the situation. She goes on to say, if I hadn't spoken to her at the time, she doesn't know. And it really got me thinking that, had she found me at the wrong time, would I have been as empathetic as I was? Maybe she did find me at the wrong time, but I was able to help. It got me thinking and it made me realize that we really should pay attention to what we say when we're speaking to someone. We really should take in consideration the words you spit out because honestly, I don't remember what I said, but he knows and it had a huge impact on her and it really moved her. The conversation was very comforting for her and it was really fruitful, I would say. Having said that, I just think it's really important to attentively listen to someone when they're speaking to you. That really helps because you can never find a good, relevant response, and you can never find a good advice to give, provided you listen carefully. So in closing, I'd like to urge everyone to be a readable book and flip through others as well. Go out, meet people, talk to people. People have a lot to share. And most importantly, be prepared to learn something new. Thank you.